Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this edition of Monday Mindset Mastery. We are here at the beach in beautiful Galveston, outside of Houston. I am attending a writer's retreat which Dr. Cindy Childress is hosting. And this last weekend, I've met 6 amazing women working on their book. And today's topic was the power of stories, because we've talked about how stories are so important and how your story can really make a difference. Your story can change someone's life. And I have someone with me today who I'm happy to have here, Lisa Hacker. Lisa is about to, you know what? Jennifer, I know her name. Lisa's staying here, so I was thinking of Lisa. Jennifer Hacker.
No worries.
Sorry, I knew her name.
I know you did.
Yeah, it's Jennifer Hacker. And Jennifer's about to release her book, and Jennifer is a grief coach, and she has some amazing stories, and her book will be coming out soon. So, Jennifer, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey, about tell us a little bit about you.
Okay. Well, first, I just want to say that this has been a fabulous retreat. Anybody interested in writing a book, consider talking to Cindy Childress, the
Yes.
experts ghostwriter.
Cindy is amazing.
Totally amazing.
She can help you write your book. She can ghostwrite for you. She's a coach. Dr. Cindy has, yeah, she's incredible. So yeah, if you're thinking of writing a book, you should definitely reach out to Cindy.
For sure. And so she helped me, and I'm in the very final stages of sending my book to the publisher. And the title is From Gutted to Glorious: Transform Your Grief and Rediscover Your Joy. And I think that kind of just says a lot, about what it is, what it's about. My story began in 2003 when my first son passed away. He was 3 months old. It was SIDS. And I was so busy with life, with work, with children. I got divorced. I just didn't really get grief for 17 years. But I had a transformative experience, and that made me want to share with people who have suffered a loss and think it's taking too long, they're doing something wrong. I want them to know you're not doing anything wrong. You take the amount of time you take, but you can heal. Not only heal, be happy, but live a glorious life after loss.
That's such a great message, because I know so many parents who lose children, especially if they have other children, they don't give themselves time to grieve, because they can't grieve. They have to worry about the other kids, or they fall apart, and then it affects the whole family. So taking care of that grief and realizing that there is life after, and it could be a good life. It's not just a going through the motions life. It could actually be an amazing life. I know people always feel like if I lose a child, or I lose a spouse, or I lose someone and I'm happy, I'm letting that person down, or letting them leave my memory. And that's just not the case.
Not
right?
the case. Not the case at all. You can remember and be happy, right? You can let go of pain without letting go of that person. So that's a big theme in my book as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and also that life can be a lot better than just good. It can be glorious.
Yeah, and I think I believe that even when you lose someone, their soul is still part of you. And wouldn't they want you to have an amazing life? I'm sure, if you lose someone, they don't want you to be miserable. They don't want you to sit there and mourn them forever. Yeah, mourning, you have to go through the process. Tell me, I know a lot of people too. I hear people, I know family members of mine and people, and even myself to a certain, we have something happen to us, and we realize we don't take that time. But can you release to take care of grief that's years and years old, and what happens if you don't, if that, you just keep bringing that grief with you?
Yeah. Oh, Lordy. Well, you definitely can deal with the grief after 17 years, because that's what I did. So I know from experience you can. What happened to me was my body was just storing all of that unprocessed emotion, and I started having fainting spells. Not attributed to like any health problem. I just would just be sitting in the conference room and just whoa, have a dizzy spell and almost pass out. So that was my grief needing to come out. That was me needing to do some grief work. And I was just, plugging along, trying to do life. Right.
Right.
So I went to a couple of different doctors and I did some microtherapies, and I was able to solve the fainting issue, but I normally
Right
do.
back to doing all the
Right back to
stuff.
doing all the things. And then it wasn't until 7 years later that I actually went to a grief certification training program because I wanted to help someone else with her grief. I thought I was doing pretty good. And so when I went to the training program, that's when I had my transformative experience, and I didn't even realize how much I needed it.
Oh, that's really powerful too. The fact that you can, you know, I mean, things go on in our life. I always wonder how, since I've been spending the last couple of years really working on personal growth, and the more I do it, the more I feel like I have to change, I have to improve. And it's like, how do these people who don't do it get through life?
Yeah.
But it's like, what was I doing? I mean, I did for 60 years. I got through life and I thought I was doing pretty good. But now that I've started realizing all the stuff there, so you can be suffering from grief, pretty debilitating grief probably, and not even realize it.
Yep.
And you just think that's the way it's supposed to be, or that's the way life is. Is that?
Well, and some people, it's actually a choice. Like, it's a fear. There's a lot of resistance to doing grief work, as many people call it. And the resistance stems from, like, but many things. One of them is, am I betraying my loved one? Am I letting them down? Am I forgetting? A lot of it also, though, is honestly fear of facing those feelings, because those feelings are so huge. It is scary to think I'm going to start going back and feeling those gut wrenching, days of my life.
Right.
But the fact is, honestly, as scary as it is, you're already carrying around all that stuff, and you're probably already having moments where you cry and where you're emotional and where you're plunging back into the depths. So doing the work is actually, it does feel scary, but once you're done, the weight that is lifted it's just it's like a seismic shift. I
Right.
just can't even explain it.
I can imagine that. And or else, I guess if you don't, you're just carrying it with you forever.
Yes.
And it can, like you started fainting, but I'm sure it has other health issues, high blood pressure, heart conditions,
Yeah. Oh,
depression, there's so many, carrying that around in your inside of you has got to wreak havoc on your body.
yeah. I actually had other symptoms, but I was ignoring them, because it was just like knots in my shoulders, and they were always up here. And I was just like, well, I can, that didn't stop me, right? I only went and sought help when I was literally falling down.
Yeah, that's really crazy. So,
Yes,
yeah.
it is crazy.
And it's interesting. I know a lot of the people that are part of, that maybe watching are a little bit older. I mean, I'm in my 60s, and when you get to be in your 60s, 70s, 80s, grief almost becomes part of your life because you're losing friends, you're losing parents. I mean, we're, when you get to be our age, and pets, even grief over a pet
For
can be
sure.
incredible.
It is, yes. And that's one of the most minimized losses of all. And it's really sad because that's genuine grief, deep, deep grief is real over a pet.
So if someone thinks they may be suffering from grief or maybe carrying around grief that they're ready to let go of, what would you recommend?
Ooh, well, there's different, I guess it depends on
Clearly
where
your book
they
when it's out.
are.
So, well, if you think you're suffering from grief, once Lisa's book, or why do I keep calling you Lisa?
I don't know.
Jennifer. Lisa's one of my roommates, so is also at the retreat, but I don't know why I keep calling Jennifer Lisa, even though I
we don't
know
even
her
look
name.
alike.
No,
I
not
mean,
at all.
we do, but me and
No,
Lisa do
Lisa
not.
does not. Lisa's tall, has short hair, nothing. So I think because Lisa's upstairs and I keep thinking, oh, Lisa might come down. So
Yeah.
Jennifer's book clearly is the first thing
Yes.
that you should do. Maybe the grief is interfering with my brain. I need
Maybe so. I mean, my book is about grief, but it's really about hope. And it's my personal story about, and not just my son, because as it turns out, when I went to my training, in order to avoid, because I don't like being vulnerable, okay, and crying in a room full of strangers. That's another sometimes big resistance factor. Um, So when I got to the training, you have to choose a loss that you're going to work on. And I chose my dad instead of my son because I thought, well, there's not that much stuff there. And surely I'll be able to get through this without crying too much. Wrong. I had no idea how much pain was inside me over him until it just all came out during this training. But my book outlines like a method, and it is very helpful to have a method, right? Because grief is, I mean, it's just so big and it's so messy, and you like there's no parameters and there's no timeline. But this process is just a series of exercises, and you deal first with your whole life history of losses because we're just taught to just get over stuff, without doing any acknowledging the feelings.
Right.
Like you move to a new town when you're a kid and your parents say, it's a better school, it's a better neighborhood, it's no big deal.
You'll make new friends.
Yeah, exactly. So all that gets minimized and we just shove it down and shove it down. Everyone's carrying around a lifetime of loss. So first you deal with all that. Then you do a deep dive into like whatever is like the biggest one, right? That you're hurting from in that moment. So you do a very deep dive on that particular relationship, and you go through another set of steps to say all of the unsaid things, and reconcile with all of the things that you hoped for and wished for and dreamed about that didn't come to be.
So you can talk to the person who's gone.
Yes.
Missing.
Yes.
That's incredibly powerful
It
because I
is.
know a lot of times grief is accompanied by the arguments you had that you wish you had and the things you said before the person died. So
Yes.
having that, being able to get rid of that guilt and talk to that person.
It's tremendous.
Could be.
Honestly, I really had no idea that I could have peace. And that's one thing. I made so much progress, and I did heal a lot, and I did a lot of grief work, and I felt like it was just how life was going to be. It was going to be good enough, but it was never going to be great,
Right.
and I was never going to be totally at peace. And I'm happy to say I was wrong.
Oh, that's great. I'm so glad. I'm so glad you're at peace. Let me ask you a little bit about like the future. So if you do, work with a grief coach or follow the steps in your book, release the grief that happened in the past, does that help you better prepare for grief in the future?
Well, I mean, I believe it does for sure because you're gonna, like you said, you're gonna have more losses. Just because, like, for instance, I wish I could have, said to myself, "I've got the trump card." I lost a child. That's the worst thing that could ever happen. So my stuff is over. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I've already, but no, that's not true. So we're all gonna go through more things, and once you know this process, then you can do it again. Right, with each relationship and with each grief event, and grief doesn't even have to be about a death. Also,
Right. Yeah. No.
divorce causes grief. Losing a job causes grief. So it's a process that you can use for any of those events for the rest of your life, and it also helps you understand other people going through grief because it's really hard to know how to show up for someone in grief. You don't know what to say.
Right, yeah.
You end up saying the wrong thing.
Or people just get ignored because they're
Yeah.
afraid. I don't know what to do, so I'll just
So
stay
do nothing.
away. And
Yeah.
that's not what the
And that's
person
the worst
needs.
thing because they're already isolated and feeling alone and misunderstood. And so, yeah, it really helps to help someone else.
I love that. Well, I can't wait to your book. And you are a grief coach,
Yes,
right? So
yeah.
if someone is interested in working with Jennifer, not Lisa, Jennifer,
Got it this time.
how would someone reach out to you?
Okay. Well, my website is just jenniferhacker.com.
And that's Hacker.
Hacker, and Jennifer spelled like the normal way, like not GY, and JENNIFER, jenniferhacker.com. That's probably the easiest thing to remember.
Yes. And your book will be on Amazon?
It will be everywhere. It will be on Amazon. It will be in stores. It will be,
maybe a month or so?
I'm thinking maybe, let's see, what's today? I don't even know what
Today
is.
is June 30th.
Then I think it's probably going to be mid-September.
Okay, so in a couple months, we can wait, but in the meantime, you don't have to wait 2 months to handle your grief. You can reach out to Jennifer. The longer you hold on to it, the longer it's going to keep you from living that life. And if you listen to any of my mindset mastery, you know that my belief is that everybody deserves to live an extraordinary life and that everybody can live an extraordinary life. Whatever that means to you, it's possible. And the first step is believing it. And until you let go of that grief, you're probably not going to believe it. So I'd love for you all to let go of that. Let me ask you before we end, is there one piece of advice you'd like to leave with the audience?
Ooh, just one. I don't know. I have to think on this for a second.
Or take your time.
I do. I just really resonate with what you just said, which is don't wait, because that's only going to compound what you're already going through. You're already suffering. So just go ahead and face it as best you can. Anybody who's like in the early phases of grief, I have a text message service that I created because in the very early days, you can't even leave home, and so it's very hard to get support at that time. So I have a text message service if that's where you are. Um, and then I also have for people who need a little bit more, but they still don't want to like get on camera and do Zooms and stuff. I have like a grief companion program. So that's just interacting weekly by email, because so you don't have to join a book group
Right.
and, talk to other people
Yeah.
and that kind of thing.
And I love to talk. I know we're close to the end. I like to keep these to about 30 minutes just because I know people have short attention spans and lots of things to do. But you mentioned the companion program, and that's one thing too. I just want to mention that grief, you're not alone. Everyone has a loss. I mean, if I don't think it's possible to go through life without loss.
Nope.
Like I said, whether it's a loss of a child, a spouse, a parent, a pet, and it's loss of a career, a job, just a divorce, just even a loss of a loss of yourself, that you can grieve over the person you used to be. I mean, if if you were younger and you could do this and you can't do that anymore, you grieve over that loss of activity. So you're not alone. We all have that, and we can really support each other and help each other too when you know what to look for. So I love that, the companion, there are people that you can help, and people, we can help each other by just being there, being supportive, being loving,
Being aware.
being aware
Yeah.
that someone may be suffering from something, and you never know how it's, if you're not a pet lover, you might be, why are they, how could they be so depressed? It was just a guinea pig.
Right.
It's like, well, that guinea pig was their heart and soul.
Right.
So you can't judge other people's grief either.
Right.
We all feel in the same way, and everywhere you don't have to stay there.
And that reminds me of something that I do love. It's something that David Kessler always says, because people do inevitably want to compare, right? Or at least understand, like, well, what's the worst kind of grief? Like, is it if you lose your child? Is it if you lose your spouse from 50 years? And he says, the worst loss is yours.
Hmm.
And I think that's really, really profound.
Right.
And true.
So true.
You get to have your grief. It is yours.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, I think that's the perfect way to end this. So just remember that. I love you all. We're here at the beautiful beach. I don't know if you can see. I'm going to put the camera. You can see the ocean there. Wonderful place. There's going to be a lot of amazing books coming out of this retreat besides Jennifer. Lisa has one coming. There's another Jennifer. And hopefully I will be interviewing all these amazing women here, including Dr. Cindy Childress, who is like the book doctor. I mean, she like helps bring books out of people. I think she's written or worked with over 300 or 400, some huge amount of books. And most of them are bestsellers and amazing books. I will be back next week. My guest next week is Christine Closer. And Christine is going to talk about leadership. So I look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank
This has been
you.
great. And until next week, remember your mindset is, the most powerful thing you have, and it's related to everything. And you're amazing. You deserve an extraordinary life, and have a fantastic week. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.